Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. The U.S. Senate has given its first approval to a bill to protect marriage rights for same-sex couples. The Respect Marriage Act passed a crucial hurdle with bipartisan support Wednesday and has become a top priority in the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade abortion rights and threatening other precedents as well. Among them, same-sex marriage. Christopher Martinez reports.
Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin is the lead Democratic sponsor of the measure.
The Supreme Court should not be in a position to undermine the stability of families with a stroke of the pen. So now Congress must act.
On the other side of the aisle, Susan Collins of Maine is the lead Republican co-sponsor.
It would help promote equality, prevent discrimination, and protect the rights of Americans in same-sex and interracial marriages.
H.R. 8404, the Respect for Marriage Act, would repeal the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act that defined marriage as a legal union between a man and a woman. The measure would guarantee federal recognition of same-sex marriages, with all the implications that has for things like medical decisions, taxes, social programs, and immigration statuses. The bill does not require states to grant marriage licenses to same-sex couples, and more than 30 states currently have same-sex marriage bans on the books. But it would require them to recognize such marriages that are valid in other states. Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
Republicans have won control of the House, setting up the stage to stymie Democrats and President Joe Biden's agenda and spur a new flurry of investigations. House Republicans are expected to announce plans to investigate President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and other associates they say have benefited from the president's power. A narrow GOP majority could pose challenges and complicate the party's ability to govern. Votes in several competitive House races are still being counted, especially with Democrats in control of the Senate. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, meanwhile, is expected to announce her plans with colleagues and whether she will seek another term as a Democratic leader or step aside. After the violent attack on her husband, she said in an interview she was reassessing her role in politics. Pelosi is expected to speak on the House floor today. In the Senate, Mitch McConnell was voted as Republican Minority Leader Wednesday. The Cherokee Nation wants a tribal representative seat in Congress. It was a topic of a House hearing Wednesday. Edwin Vieira reports.
Cherokee Nation Chief Chuck Hoskin testified before the U.S. House Rules Committee, examining laws and procedure to have a Cherokee Nation delegate become a member of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Cherokee Nation has, in fact, adhered to our obligations under these treaties. I'm here to ask the United States to do the same. It's time for this body to honor this promise and seat our delegate in the House of Representatives. No barrier, constitutional or otherwise, prevents this.
I'm Edwin J. Vieira for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
The United Kingdom is in a recession. Millions of British people face higher taxes and steeper energy bills after the government announced an emergency budget that includes £55 billion in tax increases and spending cuts. Those making more than $148,000 a year face a 45% tax. There's also a new windfall profit tax on energy companies. Sally Patterson reports from London.
Chancellor Jeremy Hunt confirmed the UK is now in recession. The Chancellor called for public spending discipline, but committed more funding for the National Health Service and education.
Families, pensioners, businesses, teachers, nurses, and many others are worried about the future. So today, we deliver a plan to tackle the cost of living crisis and rebuild our economy. Our priorities are stability, growth, and public services. We are not alone in facing these problems, but today we respond to an international crisis with British values.
In London, I'm Sally Patterson.
Russian airstrikes have targeted Ukraine's energy facilities again as the first snow of the season fell in Kiev and brought below zero temperatures. The chilly weather's a harbinger of the hardship to come if Moscow's missiles continue to take out power and gas plants as winter descends. Poland, meanwhile, says it's investigating the missile strike on Polish land that killed 2 people. Western leaders have said it's likely a Ukraine missile trying to strike down Russian missiles and have put the blame on Russia for the war. U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley yesterday said Ukraine fending Russia off its entire soil is becoming more unlikely. The first time an admitted defeat, but he also said Ukraine is in a strong position to negotiate.
The probability of a Ukrainian military victory, defined as kicking the Russians out of all of Ukraine, to include what they define or what they claim as Crimea, the probability of that happening anytime soon is not high. There may be a political solution where politically the Russians withdraw. That's possible.
Russia and Ukraine have extended a grain shipment deal out of the Black Sea port for another 4 months, relieving fears of another global grain shortage. Thousands of unionized Starbucks workers at more than 100 locations across the U.S. are walking off the job today on strike to protest what they say is a coffee giant's refusal to engage in good faith labor negotiations. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.